It was late summer in Atlanta. The air was thick with humidity, and the city streets buzzed with a rhythm that never quite settled. In a corner office on the 20th floor of a downtown law firm, Thomas Whitmore, a seasoned white attorney, watched the news flickering on a muted screen. The words "civil rights protest turns violent" crawled across the bottom. Thomas sighed. At 62, he had seen too much. Marches in the 80s, courtrooms filled with fire and fury, and too many lives ripped apart by systems built on silence. Yet, nothing prepared him for the case that would change everything. The name Jamal Carter meant nothing to Thomas when it first hit his desk. Client is a 28-year-old African-American male, his paralegal had said flatly. Accused of aggravated assault. Victims in a coma. Thomas looked at the file. Jamal's record was clean. No priors. Local business owner. Ran a car detailing shop in Southwest Atlanta. Who's the victim? He asked. She hesitated. Ethan Ross. Retired cop. A chill moved through Thomas. Ross. The name stirred something dark. That was his old partner. Retired in disgrace. In the courtroom, Thomas first saw Jamal. Tall, quiet, with eyes that carried weight. "I didn't do it," Jamal said in their first meeting, his voice calm but burning. "He came at me, said I fit some description. Called me names I won't repeat. I pushed him off me. He slipped. Hit his head on the curb." Thomas nodded. He believed him. But believing and proving were two different wars. The prosecution painted Jamal as a violent thug. Said he had a history of aggression, pointing to a bar fight years ago where Jamal had defended his brother from a racist customer. It wasn't even a charge, just a mention in police logs. But the jury, mostly white, was eating it up. As trial days passed, the tension thickened. Outside, protests grew. People held signs with Jamal's face. Online, narratives spun out of control. "Thug attacks hero cop," one article read. Another. "Self-defense or racial vengeance?" Thomas stayed late in his office, digging. One night, he found it. An old complaint filed against Ross in 2003. Excessive force. Suppressed. The victim? A black teenager. Sealed in court. But Thomas remembered the incident. He had buried it. He had looked away. Thomas stood in court, hand shaking slightly as he presented the motion. "I request to unseal prior conduct records of Officer Ethan Ross, citing relevance to the pattern of racially motivated aggression." The judge hesitated. The DA objected. But something shifted. Public pressure was rising. The truth had momentum. A day later, the records came in. 4 complaints. 3 settlements. 1 internal suspension. Thomas laid them out, piece by piece, for the jury. He spoke softly but with purpose. "This man, Ethan Ross, was not the image you've been shown. Jamal Carter isn't on trial for violence. He's on trial for being born black and not backing down." It took the jury 2 days. Not guilty. Jamal didn't cry. He nodded at Thomas and whispered, "Thank you for seeing me." Outside the courtroom, reporters swarmed. Protesters cheered. But Thomas felt none of it. His mind was in the past. He remembered Ethan Ross in uniform. How he laughed after frisking kids for no reason. How Thomas said nothing. Weeks later, a letter arrived. "Mr. Whitmore, I want to thank you for fighting. Not just for me, but for all of us who live in the shadow of assumption. I didn't expect justice. But you gave me a chance. You didn't owe me that. You owed it to yourself. Jamal." Thomas didn't retire. He left the firm. He opened a legal aid clinic in the same neighborhood where Jamal lived. He hired young lawyers, black, brown, white, queer, trans, anyone who believed that truth wasn't negotiable. One morning, walking past the window, he saw Jamal, holding his daughter's hand. They nodded at each other. No words. None were needed. Atlanta moves on. The news cycle changes. But some stories stay. Because they aren't just about one man. Or one verdict. They're about what happens when we stop accepting the silence. When we stop excusing the lie. When we finally speak.